I mean, I lodged allegations for racial discrimination. Guess what? They voted.
Good morning, Chair Ballendorf, members Garrett and Holmes, staff and guests. The lobbies are open and the recording has begun.
All right, thank you, Gretchen. Good morning. I'm convening the board meeting for the Liquor and Cannabis Board for Wednesday, March 26, 2025. And we've got a nice big crowd here this morning, so welcome everybody. All right, we're going to go ahead and start with the approval of meeting minutes. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the April 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th, 2023 caucus meetings. Do I have a motion?
This is Ali. I move approval of the meeting minutes.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so the next one is for the April 12th, 26th, 2023 board minute meetings. Do I have a motion for approval?
I move approval of the board meetings in April of 2023. It's 2 years before I was here, but okay.
Thank you.
This is Ali. I second.
Okay, and then the final is the April 12th, 2023 EMT minute meetings.
I move approval of the April 12th, 2023 EMT meetings.
Second.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll start with our next agenda item, which is a licensing and regulation systems modernization SMP project go live with Director Becky Smith. Morning, Becky.
Good morning, Chair Ballendorf, Board Member Garrett and Holmes. I just wanted to provide some information about our upcoming leads. It's our new system. We have 5 days until we go live. It's exciting. We've been waiting a lot of years for this to happen, is what I'm going to say. That I want to share just some of the things that we've done along with our communications staff. Communications has been stellar in getting the word out, but we wanted to make sure that we just didn't leave it to what information was being shared, but also we reached out to other folks as well. So we reached out to our special occasion folks. So anyone who had applied for a special occasion license in the last year or so, we wanted to reach out to make sure that they are aware of the new system. Also to our local authorities, because they will have a new process as well as our packaging and labeling folks. That again, it's all a new process for everyone involved. Our authorized reps, it will be a very new process for the authorized reps who currently do business with our applicants. And with all of that, I will say that we are no longer processing change of locations or applications as of today. That you will no longer be able to put in for a banquet permit as of tomorrow until we go live on Monday. That Friday is going to be, we call it a go dark date. That means that our staff will not be able to access any of our systems. And so what we don't want to do is frustrate our applicants by them calling in and us not being able to answer any of their questions. So we won't be able to access our iSeries. So that's our current system, our SharePoint, any of our portals, any of our templates, our that if you call in for a measurement, we won't be able to do that on Friday. So really that most of our staff will be in training, learning how to continue to use the new system, or they will be in just other types of training on that day. So again, we're excited about this. That besides my staff have done, their regular work on top of having to do testing and do training in the last few weeks. And so a lot on their shoulders, and that's all of the licensing staff that have been in that mode. So we're excited about that. I do want to thank our Deputy Director, Tony Hood, that she has been excellent in really leading this venture forward. And again, my staff, IT and communications, everybody has been very supportive of what's happening in 5 days. So I'm going to turn this over to Andrew Sight. Andrew is one of our licensing investigators. He's with our training group, and he's going to just show folks what the portal looks like. Again, that it is going to be a new way that anyone who wants to do a change of application, anybody that wants to apply will need to go through this portal. So, Andrew?
Good morning, Chair Volendroff and board members Garrett and Holmes. My name is Andrew Seitz, and like Becky had said, I'm a member of licensing's training team, currently focused on preparing our division for the implementation of this new system. So today, I'm here to provide a look at what I believe is one of the most exciting parts of our new system, our customer-facing portal, through which our applicants and licensees will have increased accessibility to their licenses and permits. So I'm going to begin sharing my screen for everyone to see exactly what this will look like. Customers will be able to log in through their SAW accounts, and support for customers to connect their SAW accounts to the portal will be provided by our IT division. Upon logging in, customers can select which account they want to work on at the time. They'll have the option to select their person account as well as any of the business entities that they are a member of. Logging in will bring customers to their personal dashboard, which will provide an overview of everything they need to attend to for their pending licenses and permits, including which applications require them to submit documents, and which applications currently require them to submit any payments. Now I'm going to be going through the various tabs at the top of the page to detail the specific actions customers can take on the portal. The primary features of this new portal primarily include the ability to apply for permits and licenses, as well as the ability to monitor and take action on both their pending and active licenses and permits. To start off, all of our existing permits may be applied for on the portal. We also have a select few licenses that can be applied for here, while our most common liquor, cannabis, and tobacco licenses must still be applied for through business licensing services. The local wine industries, nonprofit arts, and special occasions licenses may be applied for through our portal. Cannabis cooperatives and farmers markets will be able to apply for their registrations. And any licensed cannabis or liquor manufacturers and producers will be able to submit their product packaging and labeling information as well. Our portal is also going to have a new feature for our licensees and applicants, which is our general requests submissions. This can be used for changes to business that don't typically require full applications, such as informing the LCB about a marriage, bankruptcy, or changing a trade name. When these are submitted, our excellent customer service will pair customers with the right people to help them for their specific request. Mass providers and trainers will be able to register online, as will any licensees who qualify for RVP. Anyone with the business's UBI can register for RVP, allowing store managers to register for the program. Public records requests may be made easily online, and it's important to note that no account will be required to submit a public records request. These may be submitted without the need to log in. Similarly, the support or protest of a pending license application can be submitted on the portal, again, without the need for an account. The public will be directed here to this new portal page on our newly updated public posting notices to submit their protest or support letters. We next have an informational page about our Cannabis Social Equity Program. And when registration periods open, people will have the ability to register for Cannabis Social Equity on the portal. We're now going to take a look at the options available to anyone with an active or pending license on how they can manage their licenses and applications. Customers will be given the option to look at either their personal information or the information for the business account that they had selected when they first logged in. Selecting their business account will take them to their account details page, where they'll be able to see their registration information as well as the contact information that is currently linked to on our licensing side of this portal. Related contacts will show everyone who is a part of your entity, as well as the inactive section will show anyone who had previously been a part of your entity and since been removed. The license and authorization section will show all of your active and pending licenses, where they're located, what type of license they are, and each of these license numbers will link to an individual page, fully detailing everything about the liquor license, where it's been licensed at, when it had originally been issued, when its upcoming expiration date is, as well as all of the privileges, endorsements, and activities that have been approved at that location. We also have a section here for pending applications. And this section will provide information on everything that an individual has in progress for that entity that they're logged in as. The status section here will show where their application is during the application process, and this will be updated on the portal automatically whenever the assigned licensing specialist makes an update on our system. We'll also be able to see when an interview and when an initial interview is scheduled, as well as the ability to request a withdrawal of your application. Similarly, we'll be able to find the same information for permits. And once again, we have a historical section so that we can see any previous applications that had been withdrawn. Now back on the license and authorizations section, for any licenses that have been approved and are currently active, there will be the option to make changes to that existing license, such as the ability to add and remove endorsements or request an alteration to your floor plans. These options will depend on what type of license you have currently been approved for. Now, for any of our applications that are in progress and require any documentations to be submitted, we have a section on our portal for My Submissions, where we can go and access that application that requires documentation. And this will bring us to a page where we are able to either upload a file that the applicant has ownership of, such as their floor plans and photos, as well as the ability to submit forms that the agency has provided, which will be accessible and fillable through the portal. Finally, customers will be able to pay any outstanding fees that they might have, such as their licensing fees and renewals. And this concludes our look into the customer-facing portal. I do want to thank the board for the opportunity to share this preview with everyone, and I look forward to seeing how useful this will be for our applicants and licensees. If anyone on the board has any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. Any questions
course.
from board members?
I just want to say that's great, looking at this. And I know a lot of work went into it, but very impressive.
Thank you.
Very impressed. No questions. Thanks.
Yeah, I would agree. Andrew, the only question I would have, and that's actually more for context for board member Holmes as a newer board member. Can you give us an idea, and if not Andrew, somebody from licensing, the volume of applications that we anticipate coming through this system? Just how many applicants do we typically get for any one of these various areas?
Well, I mean, so let's talk about special occasion licenses.
Okay.
We get about 300 a month. some anywhere from 300 to
So it's a
500.
very large volume.
A large volume. This will, that's what's so fantastic for the applicant is that they'll finally be able to see where their application is, what's missing from their application. They won't have to necessarily reach out to their investigator, although of course their investigator is always available. They'll be able just to go on and click to see like has the supervisor, has this been sent to issue, like what's happened with my application. And I think that that's what's going to be exciting for the applicant.
Yeah, when I heard Andrew, you talk about that particular feature, I looked over at director and just indicated that's really great because as a board member, I don't get a whole lot of calls regarding people's applications, but when I do, it's where's my application at in process kind of thing. And so now people will have access to that themselves, which is great. So thank you very much.
No, thank you.
All right, anything else? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now move on to our next agenda item, which is a review and consideration of sports and entertainment facility pilot. And we've got Joe here who's going to give us an update. Morning, Joe.
Good morning, Board Chair Vollendroff and board members Garrett and Holmes. I'm Joe Rademacher. I'm Compliance Specialist with the Compliance and Adjudications team in the Licensing Division. I'm here today to present a recommendation seeking allowance to begin a controlled pilot project with Lumen Field, Climate Pledge Arena, and T-Mobile Park to implement and evaluate spirits consumption throughout general seating in their facilities. Since 2018, the Licensing Division has been spearheading reviews of exception requests and has conducted several iterations of pilot projects with the 3 large organizations in Seattle that we are here today to discuss. The first such pilot was with T-Mobile Park in 2018 for batched spirits cocktails. That pilot was evaluated for 2 years, and the exception was made a permanent part of their operations in 2020. In 2021, both Lumen Field and Climate Pledge Arena started their own pilots for batch spirits cocktails and canned spirits cocktails. In 2023, Climate Pledge Arena's pilot was made permanent, and the same for Lumen Field in 2024. Throughout these pilots, the Licensing Division has collaborated with internal teams, including enforcement and public health liaison, as well as the licensees themselves, to evaluate their performance during these pilots relative to our agency's mission to promote public safety, public health, and trust through our administration of the laws and rules we regulate. These pilots have been stepping stones, if you will, to the most recent exception request from these licensees that includes progression to the allowance for spirits consumption throughout general seating. In May 2024, representatives from Lumen Field submitted their official request for spirits consumption throughout Lumen Field, which was provided as an attachment to this recommendation today. After receiving this request and once the LCB's own research team was created, we sought the research team's help to develop a research brief on alcohol use and sporting events to help us better understand industry trends across the country. Their brief is available as an attachment as well. In response to interest from Board Chair Vollendroff, as well as part of our evaluation of Lumen Field's request, we organized the first meeting with industry between the LCB and these SEF partners in November and hosted both internal and external stakeholders for discussions centered on this exception request. Since then, we have continued to communicate with the licensees. Their responses to our additional requests for feedback have also been included. Finally, we have continued internal dialogue with enforcement, the research team, and the public health liaison to evaluate this request and develop the recommendation we are bringing before you today. I want to acknowledge and thank both our internal partners, Chair Vollendroff, Sarah Oakey, Captain Jacob Garnis, and Kristen Haley, among many others, and our industry partners at Lumen Field, Climate Pledge Arena, and T-Mobile, who many of them are here today, for your efforts with this project so far, and your willingness to progress how our agency collaborates with these unique licensees. Due to our work across this request and the multiple other related pilot projects, we are recommending approval of a large-scale pilot project that would allow for implementation of spirit sales and consumptions throughout general seating at Lumen Field, Climate Pledge Arena, and T-Mobile Park. This project would allow for an increased service across a broad spectrum of event types to enable a holistic evaluation of its effects. We do, however, see the need for control measures to be put in place should this pilot be approved. Some of these include increasing their alcohol service and security staff to guest ratio 1 to 45 for the duration of the pilot project, and increase in staff from the 1 to 50 ratio currently in use. Another implementation would be providing or preventing the addition of any new points of sale and restricting how many current points of sale can offer these spirits drinks. Also, limiting spirit service to a menu of alcohol by volume of 12.5 or less, as well as preventing service of standalone single servings such as shots, doubles, or bottle service in general seating. Also, updating incident reporting and recording procedures to support appropriate data collection for continued evaluation. Reviewing progress at the 6-month and 12-month marks to evaluate how all of these things may or may not have changed, and placing increased emphasis on site visits at these venues throughout the duration of the project. Should the board approve this pilot project as recommended, we will initiate work with each licensee on an individual basis to develop an implementation and review plan that will suit each facility's unique features and capabilities. We will leverage our research team to collect and analyze data and develop review reports, our enforcement team to conduct site visits and review incident reports and continue to partner with them and the licensees at set intervals during a 1-year pilot period. Our goal will be to develop a comprehensive report based on these reviews and input from the licensees that will support our agency's stance on this level of service for future operations across the industry. As is the case with every SEF license and pilot project, should the board decide to approve this request, we have the authority and ability to adapt the pilot through required adjustments to their service or to rescind the exception outright, should the agency determine the effects of the pilot are a detriment to the health and safety of the public. I would like to offer Nicola an opportunity to provide any comments if she has any.
Morning, Chair Volendroff, Member Garrett and Holmes. I just wanted to take the opportunity to really thank Chair Volendroff, Director Will Lucella, Tony Hood, and Becky Smith for all of your continued support and participation with this group. We have a great group of industry members that we meet with, and just having you guys all there, it's really made this program that much better. And there is a bunch of you down here today. Do you want to take a second and introduce yourself? Are we good? Want to stand up and just introduce like who you are from your arena?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Nick Careby, VP Food and Beverage at Client Pledge Arena.
Megan Murray, District Manager for T-Mobile Park, Sodexo Live.
Steve Dominguez, General Manager with Delaware North at Climate Pledge Arena.
Ashley Brown, Vice President of Hospitality with Levy at Lumen Field.
I am Ed Goins, Chief Legal Officer for First and Goal in Lumen Field.
Dave Malone, Miller Malone and Tellefson with Lumen Field.
Thank you all again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Volendroff, board members, Ollie, Garrett, and Holmes. At this time, if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions for Joe?
I don't have any questions, but once again, I just want to thank everybody. I know a lot of conversation, meetings, and energy went into getting this to where it is today. I'm actually glad to see that it's coming before us. So thank you all, everyone, for the hard work that was put into getting this pilot before the board.
Thank you, Board Member Garrett. I don't have any questions either. I've been at the table for these conversations and just want to echo what Board Member Garrett said and also acknowledge our partners in the industry, in the sports and entertainment industry. It's been a great demonstration of the power of bringing people together to come up with solutions and to recognize that we need to have guardrails and we need to have data and we need to be evaluating these programs. At the same time, recognizing that the consumption of alcohol in sports entertainment facilities is part of the experience for many people. And so how do we balance both of those things out? And this has demonstrated a great partnership. So I really thank you all for your partnership, and Joe and Nicola and Becky and the entire licensing team for your work in this particular, as well as enforcement, who's done a great job of partnering with us as well. So thank you very much, Joe. Okay, so with that, do I have a motion to approve the pilot project for sports and entertainment facilities that's been presented to the board this morning?
This is Pete. I move that we endorse the staff request for this sports and entertainment facilities pilot.
Thank you.
And this is Ollie, I second.
All right, so that is approved. Thank you very much. All right,
Yeah.
moving right along. Thank you for coming down for the drive and everything. Appreciate it. Okay, so moving right along, we're going to move into alcohol-related rulemaking. And so first up, we have Jeff, who's going to give us, with policy and rules, who's going to give us an update and ask for action on a consideration regarding permanent resident cards as acceptable forms of identification. So Jeff, you're up.
Okay. Good morning, Chair Volendroff and board members Garrett and Holmes. This morning, I am presenting the Director's Office response for a rulemaking petition we received on February 19th, 2025 from Ole Michelson, a member of the public. Mr. Michelson's request is for the LCB to amend the current rules that identify acceptable forms of identification that may be used for purchase of alcohol and cannabis to include U.S. permanent resident cards, or green cards as they are commonly known. This request would involve amending two different WAC sections, WAC 314-11025 for alcohol and WAC 314-55150 for cannabis. The petitioner states the following. Quote, allowing green cards as proof of age and identification would not only simplify the process for lawful permanent residents, but would also ensure that all eligible individuals are treated fairly and equitably. This change would align with the principles of inclusivity and fairness that our state strives to uphold. As it happens, the board is currently engaged in rulemaking and is also considering amendments to both 314-11025 and 314-55150 regarding acceptable forms of identification. This current rulemaking began on October 9th, 2024 under Washington State Register number 2421049 in response to two other recent rulemaking petitions affecting these two rules. The board has held stakeholder meetings and is currently developing possible rule amendments to be included in a CR 102 to propose permanent rule changes to these sections. Because the board is now engaged in rulemaking and is considering amendments to these same two rule sections, it is not necessarily to accept a petition to begin a new rulemaking. This request to accept permanent resident cards is already being considered as a possible proposed addition to these rules. The LCB expects to file a CR 102 with proposed rule language this spring. So for these reasons described, Director's Office staff recommend that consistent with RCW 3405-330, the board deny Mr. Ole Michelson's petition for amending rules received on February 19th, 2025. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jeff?
No questions.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. And considering the work that's in progress, this makes sense to me. Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation from the Rules and Policy team to deny the petition?
I move that we accept the recommendation to deny.
Second.
Thank you. That's approved. All right. Thank you very much, Jeff. All right, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is cannabis-related rulemaking, and we've got Justin Nordhorn here, Policy and External Affairs Director, who's going to talk to us about implementation of cannabis sampling. Morning, Justin.
Good morning. All right. Good morning, Chair Volendroff, members Garrett and Holmes. This morning, the Director's Office is requesting the approval of the CR 103 for final rules related to cannabis sampling. If approved, the rule language will be filed today and will become effective April 26th. So this rulemaking came from a petition from the Washington Cannabis Business Association that the board accepted in August 2022 to amend WAC 314-55096. The CR 101 was filed in March of 23, and stakeholder engagements were held in March and October of 2023. We also sent out some surveys in July of 2023 to licensees, and a CR 102 was filed in August of 24, proposing a variety of changes to the rules from the original during the original CR 102. So a public hearing was held after the supplemental CR 102 was filed in October of 2024. So we had received a number of comments and had multiple conversations with licensees after the first public hearing in October, and working through a lot of the issues that you heard during the public hearing, and then also what we had received in writing. We made additional changes to the CR 102. So we did end up filing a supplemental CR 102 on January 29th, which opened up a new formal public comment period for the supplemental CR 102, and that concluded on March 12th of 2025. So as you probably remember, there was no testimony provided at the March 12th public hearing on the topic, and we also received no written comments during the course of the formal or open formal public comment period for the supplemental CR 102. So the final language that's presented to you today is identical to the proposed rule language in the supplemental CR 102. The final rule language makes the following changes to WAC 314-55096. So we're combining existing categories of vendor and education samples into one category called trade samples. We're requiring samples to be the smallest unit size currently sold at retail, so that licensees no longer need to make entirely separate unit sizes for samples.
Sorry.
Identifying sample limits being provided to retailers and particular employees. We've established uniform sample unit sizes for different product types, establishing different limits for cannabis concentrates also to recognize the higher THC content. Sample allowances are cumulative towards the overall sample limits. And so the total amount of limits average frequency of receiving samples to the level of recognized to the levels recognized as less than near daily use. References to calendar quarters versus month have been changed, and also changes intended to build flexibility for business models, for the different business types and models. So we have a lot of different types of specialty producers, and we were looking at balancing the interests of multiple different licensees and public health in this rule set. We've also identified traceability and record keeping requirements, reducing physical separation of samples. We are requiring physical separation of samples within the retail store to be separated from products to be sold at retail. However, exceptions are made around the sample jars, as they are the ones, those are the types of samples for promoting the product inside the store. We're clearly distinguishing trade samples from internal quality control samples, and also internal quality control samples from samples that are sent to the laboratory for control testing. So those internal quality control samples are meant for the producer, processor, employees to be able to make sure that the products that they're creating are of the same quality that they have intended as it's going before it goes to market. We're also specifying that the old samples have to be disposed of by September 1st. And so all of the new samples will be in effect by then. I don't foresee this being a huge issue because a lot of folks will want to move away from creating these special sample sizes for other products. And so I don't think that that's, we'd still have the delayed implementation on that particular component, but that shouldn't be a big issue. While this rulemaking has taken an extended period to complete, we believe we've improved the cannabis sampling rules by balancing interests from the commercial industry as well as public health stakeholders. So therefore, the director's office is requesting approval of the CR 103 for changes to WAC 314-55096 related to cannabis sampling. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Justin. Any questions for Justin? I'm seeing no questions, Justin, so thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it. All right, it makes sense to me. I think a lot of work went into this. I appreciate all the work for internal and external stakeholders who participated in the process. So do I have a motion from the board for adoption of the CR 103 to implement cannabis sampling?
This is Pete. I move that we adopt the the CR 103 for cannabis sampling and as based on the discussion today.
Thank
This
you.
is Ali, I second.
Thank you. So that is approved. Appreciate it. Okay, we will now move to our final agenda item, which is public comment. This is the public comment period of the meeting. Everyone will have up to 3 minutes to speak. Please limit your comments to LCB business and refrain from personal attacks or going off topic into things unrelated to what we do here. I will mention if I think the speaker has wandered too far. Please be respectful to the speakers and everyone else who is present, whether virtually or in person. Do not disrupt the meeting or others making public comment. If we have any disruptions, I will pause the public comment until the disruptions stop. Please remember that this is being recorded and will be available online later today. If you're in the room with us today, please be aware that the microphones are sensitive and will pick up papers rustling and side conversations and things like that. So if you're joining us online, please give us a second to connect you and we will do so. Gretchen will give you an alert when you have 30 seconds and I will ask you to conclude your comments once you reach the 3-minute mark. So as we usually do, we will begin with people online and general comments. So first up, we have David.
Mr. Busby registered, but I do not see him online at this time.
Okay, we'll circle back one more time at the end of the meeting to see if he joins us. All right, so we'll go with public comments in the room. And first up, we have Peter Manning.
I didn't expect to be first, but hey. Well, good morning, Board Chair Valendroff and board members, Ali Garrett, Pete Holmes. Well, hey, this is different. This is going to be our last, public comment opportunity, I guess, to say. Anyway, let me move on. To give some context to who I am, my name is Peter Manning. I had a dispensary in 2015 in Seattle. I applied for a license in 2015, third in the queue, top qualified, didn't get a license. But I knew something was amiss. So what I did was I wrote a letter to Ali Garrett. It outlined what was going on with the Black community and the brown community and how they were being overlooked, even though they were more qualified then. And this is October 16, 2016. In this letter, I outlined that. She ignored it. And I know Ali prior to that. Here is a complaint. I filed a tort claim against the LCB in December. I filed it in November. Here's an investigation that they did to look for, to see if I was right in my allegations as far as discrimination against Blacks and Mexicans. They interviewed 6 white people and came back with the conclusion that it didn't exist. When prompted by me, why didn't you guys interview any Black people? They said they couldn't find any. Listen, 10 years. 10 years you've excluded us. And it's factual. It's not made up. It's not hyperbole. And it was done intentionally. Now, I'm not saying it was done by everyone in this room intentionally, but some in this room are guilty of that. I'm not going to name names out of respect to what you said, Chair Valendroff. However, best believe now we have 170 licenses that are supposed to come out. What a convenient time to take public comment from Black folks and Mexicans at the time when they could come in and voice their concerns and their opinions on how they're being treated by the licensing division. Think about that. 10 years, whites came in, critiqued their business, and now they're multimillionaires. They're multimillionaires. And they had 10 years to come in here to this board and express concerns to critique their business.
Peter, you have 30 seconds.
And you're taking that opportunity from us. I know without a doubt that Washington State does not like Black people. I know without a doubt that Washington State does not like Mexicans. I am calling out to all my Black and brown people. It's time for us to unite, take this on. We can make them give up what they have to give up to us. Because I know, because I did it. I started out this fight by myself, and now we are mobilized and more organized.
Peter, that's your time.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. All right, next up, we have Stephanie Taylor. Morning.
Good morning, members of the board, chairperson of the board. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm just going to give you a little context on who I am. My name is Stephanie Taylor. I'm a state employee, but I also do root cause analysis on gun violence throughout Washington state. I have my bachelor's, my master's, and I just got accepted into my doctoral. I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you today. As we stand here in the moment of progress and reform, it is essential that we pause to acknowledge the historical context in which we find ourselves, particularly regarding legalized marijuana industry. The truth is, for far too long, Black and brown entrepreneurs have been systemically excluded from the very industry that is now booming, benefiting so many. This exclusion is not a coincidence. It is a result of centuries of policies designed to marginalize Black and brown communities. We must understand that the war on drugs was not really a war on drugs, but a war on the Black and brown community members, which began in the 1980s. Both in terms of arrest and sentencing, this criminalized war on drugs have impacted our communities. While white individuals and communities were often afforded second chances, Black and brown faced over-policing, mass incarceration, lasting social stigmatizations due to this. The very plant that was criminalized in the 20th century, leading to the destruction of our countless Black and brown families, is now being legalized across the country, and yet Washington state profits from the legal marijuana sales, as African Americans and Black and brown communities are still historically targeted and excluded from this. Studies show that Black and brown entrepreneurs are significantly underrepresented in the legal marijuana industry, even though Black and brown community members were among the earliest users and sellers of the industry. They were, however, punished more harshly for doing so. This is not just a matter of economic disparity. This is a direct consequence of the legacy of racial discrimination that continues to manifest in policies, hiring practices, and business opportunities. Those who have been most impacted by the criminalization of marijuana, those who have faced arrest, jail time, and a lifetime of consequences are now being left behind in a thriving industry despite their historical role in it. The idea that those who do not know history are destined to repeat it rings true today. If we do not actively work to correct these injustices, we risk perpetrating a system that continues to disadvantage Black and brown community members in the very spaces that are now deemed acceptable. As we look for the future, we must not only strive for equity in the marijuana industry, but also work to repair the damage caused by decades of exclusion, but rather serve as a catalyst for change or a call for justice and a reminder. This is the moment in true progress that we can stand up and make this change to allow everybody to sit at this table.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we have Caitlin Ryan.
Good morning, Chair Volendroff and Board Member Holmes and Board Member Garrett. I want to thank you. Oh, I love that echo. I want to thank you for your thorough discussion yesterday in your caucus regarding the meeting changes. I think that level of transparency helped us all understand a little bit better the thinking behind it and understand what the goals were that you were searching for. You've gotten a lot of feedback from me already, but based on the conversation yesterday, I would just urge, I think the advisory groups are a great compromise. I would urge that the setting up of those also match in the timeline along with the changes in the meetings. So we'd really love to see some movement on that by the time we get to May, so that we're keeping pace with one another on that front. I'll continue to sort of push on that rulemaking piece, just in terms of transparency. I think it's really important to us to know how you as board members are receiving feedback from the public, since you are the ones that are making the decisions on that rulemaking. Is it aggregated information? Is there a way for us to ensure that you have heard us in our own words on feedback for that rulemaking? And then for the written comments, we also would really appreciate the notice that went out right as this board meeting was starting, sort of describing how we would have access to those written comments as well. This is an opportunity for us to speak to you, but also to each other, so that we have a shared understanding of what the overall discussion is. And so us having timely access to those written comments is also, I think, really important. aside from those meetings, I also wanted to comment really quickly. We're starting to hear a lot from our members around non-mandatory testing reporting. We know that folks are being asked for some of that non-mandatory testing. We're working off of guidance that was provided by the LCB back in 2021 that non-mandatory testing does not need to be submitted to CCRS. Folks are hearing a different message. And we know that people have been asking for some written guidance on what to do with non-mandatory testing. And so I'm sort of bringing it here today to ask if we could see some of that written guidance so that people know what they're expected to be doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next up we have Christopher King.
May it please the board, I'm here to talk about what Malcolm X noted as the myth of the white liberal. We're out here in the PNW. Things are allegedly progressive for black and brown out here, when really it's not true whatsoever. You know, except we're not comparing the South to the North, as Malcolm did. We're comparing the Republicans to the Democrats, okay? This is basically a Doge move, is what you're doing. Under the name of efficiency, you're constricting our freedoms and the ability to address the board effectively. That's exactly what's going on here. And you have such a contempt for me as an educated attorney addressing you about what's going on, that not only has David Postman cut me off in my mid-sentence and told me I couldn't finish my time, you actually made up a myth that I was disrupting a meeting that hadn't started, and you threatened to have me escorted out, okay? I'm a 60-year-old black man in April, no criminal record. You tried to give me one. That's how much you despise hearing the truth from people like me coming out to give it to you. That's what's going on behind this. So the lawsuit I filed, I had to redo my motion for injunctive relief, and that's going to be heard on April 11th. I think my lawyer's going to copter in for that one. William Sultan, the ACLU director of Wisconsin, they're taking forever to process his bar application here. But anyway, so I took the time, since I want to thank Attorney Patel, who usually is here today. I was going to serve him some papers, but I'm going to thank Attorney Patel for pointing out that I did not swear in my complaint because I had to file a formal injunctive motion. So I went back and I did that yesterday, and I included two cases: Mary Hall Rayford versus Monique Owens out of Eastern District of Michigan, and another one, Rebecca Massey versus City of Surprise in Arizona. Those are two great cases where plaintiffs prevailed when the government tried to shut them down from speaking, you know? And this is stuff I've litigated before in my own career, both as a journalist and as an attorney, and you can't do the things you're doing. And I think in the one of the hearings, in the Massey case, they said, do you want to be escorted out of here, or are you going to stop talking? She stood firm on her constitutional rights and demanded the opportunity to finish her remarks. She never got a chance. Instead, Mayor Hall instructed a surprise police officer, a defendant, to detain her and eject her from the room. That sound familiar? Of course it sounds familiar. It's because it's what you did to me. You know, assisted by Attorney Patel, who leaned into you to tell you to start the meeting right away so you could try to get some dirt on me. The whole thing you were doing, you knew you had exposure for doing me the way you've been doing me.
Christopher, you have 30 seconds.
So that's what you attempted to do, was to set me up so that you could have some dirt on me when I sued you to try to blunt the impact, okay? I was a government lawyer. I know how you operate, all right? So I'm just going to remind you, like Malcolm said, okay? You got the fox over here, and by the way they hold their mouth, you might be fooled, okay? Then you got the wolf over here. Chair Volendroff, you proved to be the fox. And I just can't really believe that you did that, but you did. So we'll see you in court. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. All right, next we have Gregory Foster.
Good morning, Chair, board members, folks that are here. And I honestly don't have prepared remarks today, but since it is the end of an era, as speakers have addressed today, it feels appropriate. So I'm with Cannabis Observer, and we started coming to the board meetings in late 2017 and have seen the transition of most of the board, a lot of staff leadership, staff members, lots of different issues over time, and kind of unintentionally have become something of an institutional memory for the agency. We've seen a lot of public comments over the years. A lot of issues come before the board. And our work is founded on bringing more transparency to policymaking because we feel that we've shown, I think, that by creating quality information about what's happening here and giving that to everybody, it elevates the conversation. It helps everyone be more educated about what's happening, makes for better policymaking, better engagement with the public. I think that now I'm appreciative of the efforts that you demonstrated yesterday, saying that you're gonna maybe not take all those steps that you said that you were gonna take. Especially want to thank you for leaving the EMT meetings open to the public, because that's really the only opportunity we have to hear directly from staff division leaders about what's going on within the agency. I can talk to you about how that's been important and impactful. But I think it's sad that you're going to end the opportunity for public comment to actually hear directly from people. Because as other people have said here, it's important not only for you to hear that, but for all of us to hear it too. Because then we're on the same page, we understand where people are coming from, we hear things in a different way than we read them. And not everybody is able to articulate things.
Gregory, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you, Gretchen. In written form in the same way that they can speak it, which is sort of discriminatory if you think about that. So we'll see how it goes. And I just hope that you do read what people have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next up, we have Elijah Kane.
Hello, board. My name is Elijah Kane. I'm from Seattle, Washington, born and raised, 37 years old. I just want to address you guys with the Washington cannabis industry generates $3 billion annually, with 175 million of it coming directly from the Black communities, Black and brown communities. Yet not a single dollar is reinvested into our communities. The same system that once criminalized us for cannabis now profits from our suffering while shutting us out of the industry. For decades, Black and brown people were disproportionately targeted, arrested, and incarcerated for cannabis-related offenses. Families were torn apart, lives were destroyed, and economic opportunities were stolen from us. But when legalization came, we weren't given a seat at the table. Instead, white-owned businesses flooded into our neighborhoods, set up shop, and took wealth back to their communities, leaving us with nothing but the consequences of past injustice. The LCB claims to be equity, but when Black entrepreneurs came with the right paperwork, they were denied, and a lawsuit would even expose how race played a direct role in shutting us out the industry. If this system was truly fairness, why would white businesses have a monopoly while Black and brown entrepreneurs face endless barriers? Why, after all the harm done to our communities, are we still locked out? Why others profit off the very plant that destroyed many Black lives under unjust laws? And now when we fight for our rightful place in the industry, public meetings are being shut down. Why? Because the truth is being exposed. The same system that arrested us, imprisoned us, and took away our opportunity is now trying to silence us once again, but we will not be silenced. The LCB, you guys work for us. Yeah. You guys work for us, not the other way around. Mm-hmm. We demand accountability. We demand reinvestment into our communities. We demand an end to the barriers that keep us from building generational wealth. The time for exclusion and exploitation is over. Lastly, I want to give a shout out and thanks to Black Excellence Cannabis, Peter Manning,
Elijah,
and Mike
30
Todd
seconds.
for their leadership in standing up against these injustices. They have paved the way and now it's our time to claim what is rightfully ours. We will not stop until justice is served. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Elijah. Appreciate it. All right, next we have Harris.
Yeah, yeah. Shoot, brother, I didn't know how to get your first name down.
Okay, so for the record.
For the record, Julian Harris from Seattle, Washington, 36 years old. I'm speaking Hispanic and Black. My mom's Hispanic, my dad's Black, never had him there in my life. But everyone up here, they spoke good. I mean, there's nothing much I can say, but speaking from, the minority being Hispanic and Black, I've been through a lot. I worked a lot of jobs. Had 1 year, had 9 W-2 forms, 3 jobs 1 year, 8 1 year, a lot of jobs I worked. So that said, I've seen a lot, seeing people being mistreated and, I've been through a lot. So to come up here and speak for the brown and Black community, a pleasure. And thank y'all for letting me speak. But I feel like it's just time for everyone to be treated like equals. I feel like it's time for people to stop pointing who's better, all because I have a degree, I make more than you. I'm getting my CDL license. I'm making 120 grand a year. So at the end of the day, no one can be better than me, I save my money to take care of my kids. I treat them and try to make them grow up to respect, love, family, humble. My kids, my 8 and 11-year-old, I have a car, but I like to get bus because, again, car issues, it breaks down, you got to pay for it. I don't like that. I have OCD, so I just don't got time for that. And just to see people treat people differently because of their Black or brown or white or Hispanic or whatever, it's time for a change. It's time for people to treat everyone equally, everyone to, come together as one instead of everyone saying, I'm better than you, because at the end of the day, there's no one better than me, no one. Because at the end of the day, when my CDLs come in May, how do you better than me? I make more than you. I care less. I'll never talk down on nobody. I give, again, there's people out here that hold signs up and, if you can walk, you can work. If you're crippled, I'll give you that $1. If you're really poor and I see that you're poor, I'll give you that $1. Better yet, I'll give you food because that's what you need more than money because money comes drugs. Drugs is bad for you, but marijuana helps. I had to stop smoking weed to get my CDL license, but it helps me with my anxiety. I honestly didn't want to sound fierce talk because I have like this. I don't like people watching me. I don't like to talk in front of people because it's just like, again, I was bullied as a kid. So, the whole good speech and I love everyone's speech. It was good. Like the lady got her bachelor's degree. That's so sweet. I love that. I love to
Julian,
see
you have
people
30
like that.
seconds.
Thank you. And at the end of the day, I just want to see everyone come together. Stop thinking people are better than people. Stop giving the people that think because they have degrees, they get it more than the people that don't, And again, I don't have a degree and I must make more than someone that has a degree. At the end of the day, thank you for letting me speak. And again, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, next up we have Dawn, wait a minute. Dawn Brown.
Hello, board. Thanks for having me. It's same thing. We've been marginalized. We've been left out of this situation. It's hard to see when your friends and you've been arrested on this corner and your license, your freedom, your rights, your gun rights, now you have this record that follows you for your whole life, but yet now there's a store there that's making millions of dollars doing the same thing you did that got you incarcerated. Oh, it's like, it's at a point where it's like, come on now. You let people come into our neighborhoods, set up shop, and make millions of dollars when we've been incarcerated and left out of this whole situation. It's just time for the equal opportunity. We want to be able to raise our children and have generational wealth, just like everyone else, So basically, like I said, man, it's just time for us to come together and I don't want to, I'm not, you know, it's systemically racism. Yeah, we know it is. We know. But it's a time where we can change that now. And I hope that this board sees sees that we're here to really speak for our people. And for people to say that they come by and they don't want these things in the Black community, then they say, oh, well, we're speaking for the Black community. No, you're not speaking for the Black community. The Black community wants their fair issue, just like everybody else. We want a chance to get our wealth and our children to be set, just like everyone else. That's pretty much all I want to say. And thank you for having me. I'm here at the Black Excellence Cannabis Group. And it's sad that, like they said, we're being not able to make these comments no more.
Don, you have 30 seconds.
But I hope that you guys take what we do, we write, and you guys really take that into consideration. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Sure. All right. Next up, we have John Kingsbury.
So my list is longer than 3 minutes, so tell me when to cut it off. My name is John Kingsbury. I'm a medical cannabis patient. During the past 11 years I've engaged with this agency, I have frequently been critical of LCB's disregard for the needs of medical cannabis patients. I'll still do that sometimes, but it's because of that I feel it's important to recognize publicly the real efforts LCB has put forth to improve dignified and appropriate access for the patient community, particularly during the past 2 years. First, with regard to retail medical endorsements. By 2022, retail medical endorsements were in a chaotic state and had been rendered meaningless, with half the stores on the list of 292 stores either denying they were endorsed or in some cases not even being open for business. In my experience at that time, a majority of the E&E officers in the stores themselves were not really clear on what the requirements were for holding an endorsement. But by early 2023, LCB, through education, enforcement, and licensing, had assured that 128 stores holding endorsements could make recognition cards, and the number of compliant stores has continued to rise from there. Today, I almost never encounter an E&E officer or an endorsed store that does not understand what the requirements are, whether or not they're meeting those requirements. That took a lot of work. Next, the board recognized that if endorsements did not work, then the medical cannabis system we were given could not work. The board identified a flaw in the rules and made enforcement of endorsements difficult, and they initiated rulemaking. Rule staff created rules that made the system work much better. The agency also recognized that so long as patients were vulnerable and mistrustful of the system, then it could not work. And you were affirmatively supported of patient arrest protection legislation, even to the extent of testifying on behalf of it once. This event has lessened the deeply rooted mistrust among the patient community of engaging with the state in this agency. Once the excise tax bill was passed, LCB found itself on a very short timetable to solve unique problems with a lack of critical structures to actually implement the bill. But rulemaking staff in particular rose to the occasion and got those things in place and on a very short timeline, and I applaud them for that. LCB demonstrated prompt and effective problem solving and concern when it was brought to the agency's attention that some stores were denying discounts to tax exempt patients while offering them to other customers, while some stores inflated DOH product prices only to discount them for non-registered patients. I don't know what happened behind the scenes,
John,
but
that's your
whatever
time.
LCB did.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Appreciate it. And we did receive your comments in advance, and I've already read them, so I really appreciate your comments and submitting them in advance. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Next up, we have Micah Sherman.
Hello, everybody.
My name is Micah Sherman. I'm a producer licensee here in the Olympia area. I'm also on the board of a group called the Washington Sun and Craft Growers Association. We still have a few members left in business. So I'm here today to talk about two different things. At 1:30 this afternoon, there's a hearing for a bill in the House that is relating to the consolidation of retail through management contracts and agreements that the board and the agency have allowed to become the dominant force in the shaping of the cannabis industry in the last couple of years. We're in a precipitous decline as a result. And the intent of this legislation is to give clarity to the existing legal statute so that the LCB can do what they need to do to ensure that this activity stops. We've asked a number of times for the LCB to give feedback to legislators to make sure the language of the bill is sufficient. We've yet to hear anything from anybody at the LCB about that. I'd encourage you guys to get in touch with the legislators that are working on this legislation to ensure that the language is sufficient and that there's a plan in place at the agency to do something about it. Second, the efficiency conversation. I think a much more important word to focus on would be effectiveness. I appreciate that we want to make things work better, use less time to do it, but we need to make sure that one of the things that brings us to an effective outcome in all these policies is the ability for all these folks to be able to come in and talk to the decision-making body of this agency, which is very unclear who and what that is most of the time. And so having a space that we can come and know that the decision-making body of this agency is accessible and available, and there can be a dialogue, is absolutely necessary to having an agency that's run by a board who cannot meet with themselves outside of a public meeting. This is not a normal agency. It's a board, has a different structure than other agencies, and these meetings provide valuable service in that. If you want to replace them with something, they need to actually be replaced with something that fills in the gap of what you're replacing. And so I agree that we could do all of this better, be more effective, be more efficient. But if we put efficiency ahead of effectiveness, we're going to end up worse off than we were before. And I'm really concerned that that's a possible outcome of this. So I would agree with everybody that slowing this down, making sure that when we do, I see I have 30 seconds, thank you. When we do, that we have something else in place so that we don't disrupt the progress that we've made. And I do feel like we've made some progress in the last 2 years around certain things, and we need to continue that. So I'm potentially supportive of what you guys are talking about changing, but I would love to know more about what we're replacing it with so that this same sort of dialogue can occur into the future, because I've been impactful from talking at this podium before, and other people have as well. And without that, we need something else.
Thank you, Micah. Appreciate it. Yeah. All right, our last person is Alexandria Jamerson.
Hello, board members and Chair Valendroff. My name is Alexandra Jamerson. I am here in solidarity with Black Excellence in Cannabis, who introduced me to these meetings and taking part of these legislative events, and shown me how meaningful and impactful it can be to be a part of the process. Already echoing much of what was already said before me, myself and those in my community are still awaiting our chance to take our rightful seat at the table and begin to build opportunities, provide resources and advancement for our communities and for our families. I am also disappointed to hear that the opportunity to speak in person at these meetings will be discontinued, especially when it comes at a time where it seems that we are a little bit closer to actually releasing the social equity applications. The importance of transparency and accessibility and inclusion goes without saying. And I fear that taking that away will have a negative impact on business owners and community members in having their voices heard. I caught just the middle of the presentation in the beginning where you were rolling out the new website for current and new applications. I look forward to hearing an actual date on when they will go live and seeing how well it works in the completion and submission of my application as a new social equity applicant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, that's the last person we have signed up today. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Gretchen just reminded me that David Busby had signed up to speak virtually, and I said I would come back and circle back around. So I'm circling back around. So David, you're on and should be good to go. Thank you.
Thing on.
Yep, we can hear you. There
Awesome,
you go.
thanks.
Morning.
Yeah, so I would like to echo the statements made by nearly everyone else who showed up here. I think that these public comments are not just an opportunity for the board to hear from folks who need to work with and deal in the systems and the infrastructure and the, environment that y'all are responsible for. It's important for you to hear that, but it's important for the other people who are in this industry, who are playing in this game, to be able to hear from other people what's going on. Silencing that information, not something I'm really into. Also, second thing to talk about is I had mailed the service desk about the CCRS platform taking 10 and 18 and many hours to do uploads. And a little while ago, y'all told us that you dropped some of the files and we had to start over on that. The system's really slow, taking a long time to do stuff that we needed to do. We would like it to be faster. That's sort of causing some kinds of, downstream issues. Jim Bollendroff, we chatted about this 2 or 3 years ago, where the platform needs to have inventory before it can do a successful B2B transaction, but it's taking 18 hours for inventory records to get into the system, and licensees want to create the inventory record and transport the material all in the same day. This is not currently possible with the system as it exists today. So I opened this ticket with the service desk. I got one note from the service desk after a couple of days, said, hey, we're going to recommend this over to the examiner. I haven't really heard anything about it. And I would like to. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. All right, I think that does conclude the final comments. So with that, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.
And here we start our slide into opacity.